A French campaigner has demanded France leave the European Union after a former EU commissioner admitted making key reforms to the bloc would require shared consent, which precisely does not exist. Pierre Moscovici, who served as European Commissioner for Economic and Financial Affairs, Taxation and Customs between 2014-19, made the claim during a Zoom conference. The former French politician had previously claimed the EU needs urgent modernization over its tax rules. Currently, changes in EU tax policy require unanimity within the European Commission. This allows any one EU member state to block policies they think could cause them harm. Mr. Moscovici wants this to be replaced with qualified majority voting, as is used for other policy areas. This would allow the law to be changed if it has the support of at least 16 EU member states, representing at least 65% of the bloc's population. Jason Vanoni, who is campaigning for France to leave the EU with Generation Frexit, claimed this is the exact kind of reason why the country should leave the bloc. On Twitter, he quoted Mr. Moscovici on tax reform, commenting, "It is not the most practicable way today, it is the longest, the most steep, and the one which requires a shared consent which does not exist." Mr. Vanoni jokingly replied, translation, "It's not tomorrow the day before." He followed this up with the Twitter hashtag Frexit. Supporters of Frexit, or French exit, want France to follow Britain out of the European Union. Whilst France has been an EU member since its inception, there is considerable anger over the bloc's slow coronavirus vaccine rollout. France, which is part of the EU's program, has given at least one vaccine to 16% of its population. By contrast, the UK, which left the EU last year, is well ahead on 50%. Mr. Moscovici demanded an end to the unanimity requirement for tax policy in 2019 whilst addressing the Brussels-based Bruegel think tank. He commented, "But in 2019, more than 60 years later, this old-fashioned rule hasn't changed and taxation remains the last bastion of unanimity. To be frank, I find it totally absurd and ineffective. It is surprising, and I am weighing my words, to observe that the unanimity rule is still the principle in tax matters, whereas qualified majority voting has become the norm in the EU, even for issues as politically sensitive as taxation, such as police cooperation or judicial cooperation in civil and criminal matters." The former commissioner noted some EU members use the sovereignty argument to argue against qualified majority voting. However, he argued, their real goal is to preserve a tax framework that is on the edge of legality to attract the most affluent companies and citizens. Recent polling suggests Mr. Macron will face a real challenge from far-right candidate Marine Le Pen in next year's presidential election. One survey found Ms. Le Pen will win the first round and only be defeated in the second round, when the number of candidates falls to 2, by 4 points. If she wins the presidency, Ms. Le Pen has vowed to regain control over France's borders by confronting the EU. However, she has stepped back from an earlier policy which would have seen France leave the euro.